You know, I think what's important is I was thinking about something that Wayne Dyer said, and I think it's really important, and this sticks in my mind. You know, I actually went to see him. As a matter of fact, I actually saw him and had a chance to meet him and shake hands with him and everything and talk with him for a moment. But what is important is the thing that he talks about, and that is, don't die with your song still inside of you. You know, don't die with your music still inside of you. The whole point of that is that basically there is something that all of us have that's important. We have a contribution to make to this world. Each and every one of us has a contribution to make. And sometimes we don't quite know what that is, but that's okay. Because that, to me, is the very essence of religion. I've been thinking about this. You know, the big mistake, the thing that's the red herring, and I like to say it's the reddest of the red herrings, is this whole issue of whether or not God exists. To me, that I have said this, I don't know how many times I've said it on video, but I have said I actually don't care if God exists. You know, maybe I'm in a whole new category. You know, not the atheist, not the believer, but the don't careist. I really don't care if God exists. That's not important. The essence of religion, and this is something that Einstein even said, basically it's about that part of it, of finding out what is your purpose. That is what religion, the religious thing is. Without that, there is no religion. You can have a religion without God. I mean, basically, Taoism is a religion that doesn't have God in it. But it is about understanding what is your purpose. What is my purpose for being here? That is the more important thing. This whole thing about whether God exists is a distraction. That's an argument that goes nowhere. I'm sorry, but it goes absolutely nowhere. And it's a distraction. What is important in life is that you find out what your purpose is. Now, you're not going to find it in a book. I'm sorry. You know, you could sit up here and grab the Bible. You know, you can have your Holy Bible or the Quran or the Bhagavad Gita or whatever holy book there is. And none of that's going to tell you what your purpose is. None of it will. And that's just up front. You know, the bottom line here to me is it's all about fulfillment. What things give you fulfillment? And the way in which I found my purpose is through my feelings. You know, I think one thing that kind of got me started on this thing now, and I kind of got very passionate about it, was something I feel like I got lucky with something. You know, I was looking on Amazon and I saw a couple of DVDs, and I ordered them last week, and I just got them and I was watching them with Abraham Maslow. Now, you know, everybody knows, if you've watched my videos, you know I talk about David Hume all the time. And I talk about David Hume, you know, like, people might even think I worship David Hume, which I don't. But the person that I have the highest level of admiration for, of any writer I've ever read, was Abraham Maslow. You know, I watched that video, this DVD, and they had an interview. Somebody was interviewing him. And, you know, that's the first time I'd ever heard his voice. I'd never even heard his voice before. I knew what he looked like, could see photographs of him. And I've read his books over and over and over again. And if you don't know who Abraham Maslow is, I suggest you click Wikipedia or something and read about the hierarchy of needs theory and all the other stuff, and read his books. I have read all his books, except one. I have one book I still have yet to read, but I've read all his books, and not only have I read his books, I've read them and reread them. But, you know, the bottom line in life is actualizing your potential and having fulfillment, because that's the only way you're ever going to feel a sense of fulfillment. It's not so much worshiping God or worshiping a deity or anything else. Now, I know that some of my religious friends are going to get upset, and that's okay. I don't care. The thing is that what's important is having a fulfilling life. And that only happens when you actualize your potential, when you live according to your purpose. And that's something you only discover by paying attention to your feelings. That's the thing that Maslow talked about. And here's the thing, you know, Maslow was himself an atheist. He didn't believe in God. But he understood the importance of that religious aspect of finding out, why are we here? What is your purpose? What is the meaning of your life? What is the meaning of life? And you only discover that through your work, through the things that you actually do. not through a book. You're not going to find it in a holy book. You know, I don't find any purpose or meaning in a holy book. I'm sorry, I don't. I never have. I do believe in God, but I'm not going to go into a detailed explanation exactly what I mean. One day in the future, I will make videos talking about exactly what I mean when I say God, because I do have a meaning for that. But I don't see God as a person. God is not a person. That's one thing for sure. And God does not sit there looking at people and judging one way or the other. But that's a different story, and I think it will be a distraction if I continue talking about that. What is important, however, is finding the things in life that give you some sense of fulfillment. You need to do that. That's what's going to make your life meaningful. That's what's important. It isn't the rituals. It isn't the temples you go to. You know, you can go to those things. You can do that stuff. You can read the holy books. I love to read holy books, and I really do. I enjoy reading the Bible. I really do. But that's not where I'm going to find my purpose in life. That's not where I'm going to find meaning. And that's definitely not where you're going to find morality. And that's the truth. That is true. You know, as you learn things, you begin to realize what matters in your world. Because it does come down to a subjective thing. You know, there's this thing I always say is my world, my rules. You know, I create a certain set of rules that I live by. You know, a certain moral standard that I live by. And it's my choice. It's something I've chosen freely. You know, what real morality always is going to come down to is what you have chosen for yourself. What you have chosen to do, what you consider to be right and wrong. And you've got to trust your own ability to make that choice. Not always run around consulting with the books or consulting with the priest or whatever, but consulting with your heart. And that's what I believe. I honestly believe that. You know, you've got to create your own rules, your own standards. I have a certain standard of the way I treat people, that I have to treat people with dignity, treat them with respect. You know, to realize that everybody has a right to live, a right to exist. And I have a right to exist. And when your rights come in conflict with my rights, then that's when we're going to have problems. You know, that doesn't mean that I will put up with everything. That doesn't mean that I won't hurt somebody if they're trying to hurt me. Or even if somebody would try to kill me, they might wind up getting killed. Trust me, don't think I'm just somebody that's going to sit there and turn the other cheek. I'm not going to do that. You know, I'm going to open up a can of whoop ass on somebody if they try to hurt me. And that's reality. But I do believe that, you know, it basically comes down to live and let live. If you're not causing me any harm, why should I cause you harm? There are certain sets of rules that I live by. And we all have to discover those things for ourselves. And you can do it. You have to have faith. And I like to use the word faith. Again, I don't want to get into a distraction issue because the word faith is not the exclusive territory of religion. I said this one time to somebody who on a channel once said, oh God, they just got into a big thing about faith. They could never separate the idea of faith and religion as they were one and the same thing. Faith means you accept something. I think that Sam Harris actually said something really good about this too, because he was saying, like, yeah, if you were talking about faith, like having faith in your ability to do something, like your faith in your ability to learn, like when I was learning Spanish, I had faith I could do it. Yeah, that's one thing, but the faith of sort of following what a book tells you with no evidence, that's ridiculous. I'm sorry, it is. I like to use the word faith a great deal. So I'm going to use it a lot more. I'm not going to be afraid to use it, but just understand when I use the word faith, I don't really mean it strictly in a religious sense. I mean it in a sense of there are times when you have to trust yourself. You have to trust your feelings. And I do trust my feelings. And I do not believe there is anything wrong with trusting your feelings. Yes, I have an intellect, yes, but I also have feelings. And those things are not separate. They work together. They are complementary within each one of us. And that's important to me. To not separate things, to go and say, well, I'm going to ignore my feelings and go strictly with my intellect. Or I'm going to, you know, ignore my intellect and go strictly with my feelings. I think they have to work together for everything to work right. basically, that's pretty much what I wanted to say. I wanted to make a nice short video, just basically saying a few things about what I think, what I believe, and what's on my mind. And this is basically my philosophy.